this segment, we're going to continue our Black History Month breakdown, and I'm going to talk about the double standard and the fight for equality. You might hear that and be kind of confused about what I mean, but what I'm talking about is how in the Black community, when we fight for equality, as far as whether it's human rights, like not to be slaves anymore, whether it's civil rights, just to be considered like equals, or just regular criminal justice reform and things of that nature. So whenever that happens, when we were fighting for civil war in the 60s, when we were fighting for freedom as slaves, even now in the present day, Black Lives Matter is fighting for equality and criminal justice reform. It seems to be a really strong force that fights against that. And so basically what I mean is, if you look back, obviously slaves wanted to be free. You had rebellions and slaves running away and trying to, those type of things. And the force against that was obvious. Like the slave masters and the government fought to put the slaves back into, in captivity. So you start talking about like the Black Panther Party, right? The Black Panther Party was trying to police their own neighborhoods because of police brutality toward Black people, and not necessarily because of their crime, but just because of the fact that they were Black on a Friday night. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be Black on Friday night in America, like, and just think that's it's cool. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So the police were just in our neighborhoods being harsh and unfair, and eventually we kind of created the Black Panther as a fight against that, to say, hey, we'll police our own neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, everybody in this neighborhood, we are together, and we don't need y'all in here policing us no more. So obviously the government took offense to that, as in like, oh, so they have guns now? Not only are they Black, but they have guns? Oh no, it's gonna happen. This can't happen. You know what I mean? J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director of the FBI in 1969, said that the Black Panther Party, without question, is the greatest threat to internal security of the country. The Black Panther Party was without question the greatest threat to internal security of the U.S. Are you kidding me? People in here just trying to keep their people safe. These breakfast programs, all these things that they were doing for the community, they're the worst thing?
And it's like the worst, it was the biggest threat to what they had going on in America.
Yeah.
That's what the threat was, not to internal security. It was the biggest threat to our way of life.
Exactly.
That's why they were scared.
Yeah, and if Black people get, if we take our thumb off Black people's neck and keep them, impoverished, if we don't do that, then they're going to create something that will jeopardize what they didn't want a sense of community in the Black community, which is, that's like dictatorship 101. Like, this is my country. This is what we're gonna do to keep the the population down, and we're gonna but they not many people gonna talk about that. But anyway, we can go back to the civil rights movement. Obviously, the civil rights movement was just Black people wanting to be treated as equals. It's just like civil rights. Like, we're not asking for like special treatment. We're just asking that, like, can we just be treated like how you treat anybody else? Like, can we just eat at a restaurant? Can we just go to the gas station? Can we just buy from here? Can we do regular things that regular people can do? Like, if I see a water fountain and I'm thirsty, can I just drink from that? Or do I have to travel 10 miles down the road to find a water fountain that's specifically for my skin color? No, they didn't want that either. And when we said, okay, well, you know what? We will peacefully protest. We'll sit in. We'll bus boycott. We'll do all these things. Hose down by fire hoses with, pressures of 100, PSI water. Just, sick the dogs on us. You know what I mean? Like, lock us up, beat us. All these things, like, we're just being peaceful, right? White people say we love peaceful protests because we just want the violence to go away. We don't want the damage of property. Okay, that's fine, So Fast forward to Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a movement of peace. Peace between the people and the police. The police in our community has had a very, very harsh control and a big violence toward our people. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not to excuse, black like a lot of black crime infested neighborhoods that do have issues. Like, I understand that because poverty breeds crime. Like, that's just a fact. So I'm not going against that, but my big thing is like seeing innocent black people. And maybe they're not innocent. Maybe they are a criminal. Just because I stole a loaf of bread from the store doesn't mean I deserve to die. Technically, selling loose cigarettes goes against the tobacco laws in the country or whatever, right? Or whatever state you're in, right? You can't sell loose cigarettes, but that doesn't mean I need to get put in a chokehold and die. So, at the end of the day, man, the Black Lives Matter movement is about like peace between the police and people, and there's an opposition to that. And the opposition, they have a mantra that says all lives matter. It's not just black lives. Like, why are we only saying that black lives matter? Like, if anyone dies, their life matters too. But that's common sense. That's literally common sense. We're not talking about white lives because white lives aren't endangered. You know what I mean?
And like, just I want to say this too. It's like no one's ever like then they start saying blue lives matter and things like that. It's like when a white person dies, no one's like, oh, let's just keep thugging. You feel me? Like it's news. If a cop dies, no one's over here like, yeah. If a cop, it's just sad. Yeah. Like if you're a human being, if a police officer or anyone dies, it's sad. But it becomes the reason we're saying Black Lives Matter too is because if one of us dies, it's like, oh, let's keep it thugging. You know what I'm saying? Oh, those violent, you know what I'm saying? Oh, he probably deserved it. Loose cigarettes.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But I should just get a fine or go to jail. I shouldn't have to die. Like, damn.
And you watch these videos and like, but you know what? Like, the whole thing is like the whole Black Lives Matter movement is not about like the videos. Mm-hmm. The whole Black Lives Matter movement is about what has been happening when it's not on camera, right? Because we see all these videos and we be like, oh dang, that's an isolated incident. Oh dang, that's an isolated incident. Oh dang, that's an isolated incident. But if you was listening to NWA and all these rappers back in the 90s, they were telling you about police brutality. This has been a thing since forever in the black community. This is not just now. This has been happening forever. It's now on video, and that don't even account for all the ones that actually happen. So these people, my people, are fighting for criminal justice reform. Like, these officers have to be held accountable. You can have an officer that shoot a black man right now and get fired from that police department and go right down the road into the next county and get hired on that police. How is that fair? What makes you think that he's going to take that judgment and be like, oh, well, I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm going to start a new life and not be the same person that I was when I was over here. Like, with no repercussion.
Exactly.
Besides the fact I got fired, well, I'll just go over here and apply.
And it's not like they support their own.
Yeah.
I mean, the police union is strong.
And even when they investigate it, right? So let's say
internal affairs. Yeah.
It's an internal investigation, right? You got police investigating police. You know what I mean? It's like if on the OJ trial the jury was all black. White people would have lost their mind if all the jurors was black on that OJ trial and they voted not guilty.
It would have been. It would have been
right.
Yeah, they
would have been right for that.
Damn.
Like, and this is not again. I have plenty of white friends. So I'm not, trying to paint a picture of like white people being evil. But what I'm saying is, white people are comfortable in what they have grown accustomed to.
Yeah.
In your mind, black people are violent. Whether or not you want to believe it or not, that's what you innately think. You think that black people are violent. You think that black people are ignorant. You think that we're just a lot different from you, and we're not.
We're not. We just have a different pigmentation.
We have a different pigmentation, and we have a different experience in America. Mm-hmm. And when you combine those things together with the poverty and all the things that white people have done and the government has done to put black people down, Even when they were thriving, you bomb it. Even when when we start to come back up, there's a rule that's put in place, mandatory minimums, all this type of stuff that you do that like completely pushes these people down. You know what I mean? And you got people that had an 8-ball or had a little bit of crack on them, whatever, and they get thrown in jail for 10, 15 years because they got mandatory minimums. And now you got white people strung out with this freaking epidemic.
With the
opioid epidemic, right? And they're sending them to treatment, and it's like,
so you have the sense of mind. Yeah, it's like you have the sense of mind to treat people like people, not as just free labor. Like you gonna put them in we're just gonna use them as a body so that these privately funded prisons, they get paid.
They make a profit. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just and just the things that also they had, the LA gangs. When I say gangs, I'm talking about the police gangs that were in the MWA. They was they was fucking people up. They're quoted as saying we are just arresting people, and if we can find a crime to stick to them, that's even better.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Law enforcement, dude. So.
Yeah. And just to add this back to the overall topic of the double standard when it comes to fighting for equality. Just so you can kind of get this in scope, the KKK was formed in 1865. Guess what year the slaves was freed? 1865. So immediately upon the slaves being released, the most racist organization in the United States decided to create to fight against it. We just got freed as slaves, and you put in a whole nother racist organization to fight against us being free. That encapsulates how it is. No disrespect to my LGBTQ family and all that type of stuff, but at the end of the day, if you really think that your fight is the same as it is in the struggle of the black community, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have at least 1 million more deaths before you can meet that threshold. And I'm fighting for y'all too. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
but it's a double standard. You oh, they don't want us to do it, and even the women's suffrage movement and all that stuff. Getting their equal rights and all that. A lot of women didn't die during it. They just really, really wanted something, and eventually they got it as a result of the fight that black people. That's a whole nother story for another day. The women movement got moving because of the civil rights movement and things of that nature.
Treat people equally.
Yeah. So
all people.
I don't want to go too far into it and give y'all a whole lot, but the FBI and they came in and they dismantled the Black Panther Party with the COINTELPRO, which was them coming in and infiltrating and destroying the party from within. And the Black Lives Matter movement got destroyed to a certain degree, even though it's still going, by what you would call an agent provocateur. Now, an agent provocateur is a person that the government or maybe even some rebel group that doesn't agree with you inserts into your movement, right? So y'all on the street having a peaceful protest. This is the first person that throws a brick through a window, right? The first person that loots a store. The first person that sets a fire, and then everybody else oh,
that's what we
do.
doing.
Right. Yeah. That was a riot now. We got to show them what we really mean business, right? And then everybody else falls in line. You have 10 or 15 people infiltrate these peaceful protests, and so everybody else's opinion around the stage can be oh, look at them, they're burning things down. They're nothing. And if you think the government is above that, you're wrong. You are absolutely wrong. The government has done this time and time and time again. But again, I'm not getting too far into it, but just know that there is a definite double standard when it comes to black liberation. Whenever we need something, whenever we ask for something, we never even got reparations. All we asking is to be treated equally. We didn't even get reparations.
At the very least, treat us if you're white and you're a 50-year-old man, treat me like I was your son.
That's all I'm asking.
If you saw your son walking down the street at night, what would you say? Hey man, what would you? However you would treat him, treat me the same. If you're 25 years old, treat me like I'm your brother or like I'm your next door neighbor that you done met, you've known for forever. Don't treat me like I'm like a legit different species. Like that's because then now you look at me a certain way, and then I'm thinking like, why are you looking at me?
You might be like, oh, I'm not racist, but I was kind of, I'm just more comfortable around. My
like
people
was like, but why? Why would you be? You should be comfortable around everyone, right? If we're all equals, if you're not racist, if you don't see color, which is an odd statement in itself, you should just treat us like
that's my point.
Like everybody else, bro. Like you shouldn't have to switch up your act when black people come around. You feel me? It should just be, let's keep it moving. Life is continued. But
how you doing? Keep it moving. All right, well. I got more I can really talk about, but I'm gonna just leave y'all with that. Y'all can kind of research and do what you want with that.